What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It's the Earthmaster here. On this Sunday night, October 23rd, 2022 date, it is about 8:55 p.m. out here along the west coast in California. I've seen a 5.3 over here along the Philippine Trench, one of the latest earthquakes, also a 3.8. It looks like somewhere down in that mix as well. Seen a pretty good swarm of earthquake activity kind of clustered up around this region. Let's go ahead and check out the latest activity here from the USGS. Showing some of that movement there. Of course, a lot of EMSC data coming in on the globe that's not listed on the USGS map. The latest quake within this area shows a 5.3 in the Philippines area. Just a short time ago, looks like about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. Also some movement further to the southwest here, about 11 kilometers deep for that 4.7. And another one up further along the Philippine Trench area at 60 kilometers deep for 4.7. So things kind of kicking up here within this area throughout the afternoon and evening time frame. Now around the Izu Trench area, of course, if you remember, excuse me, we've seen that 4.9 and 4.1 deep earthquake movement earlier this afternoon, and this was early this morning, about 4 o'clock in the morning there, my time. And earlier this afternoon, we've seen a little bit of adjustment here, and this is just one of those fascinating moments here where I try to point out the deeper earthquake activity triggering much shallower earthquakes, and sometimes much larger. But in this case here, roughly about equal. One deep earthquake around 4.9. We had a surface quake up here at 4.9 as well. So just a little eye catcher right there. Deep movement normally will trigger some upstream larger activity, so got to watch that region pretty closely. Into the Japan Trench, that one was this morning, about 6 in the morning, a 4.5 earthquake in that area. See what we got going on around Fiji, Tonga. Nothing coming in yet at all. This earthquake here around Papua New Guinea was earlier this morning time frame, but things very quiet for now in this region. Same for the South America area. A little bit of activity up into the Puerto Rico region, but even then, the majority of this earthquake activity looks like that was from earlier this afternoon time frame. Not a whole lot of renewed movement kicking off here around the Puerto Rico area. Up into the Alaska region, looks pretty typical. Not a whole lot of swarming anywhere, just spread out all over the place here around the subduction zone. Latest quake shows a 2.2 just outside of Anchorage at 34 kilometers deep. This earthquake here, way up here, looks like that came in about 4 o'clock time frame. Way up in Russia, away from the plate boundary here. 4.3 at 10 kilometers deep. What do we got going on around the Big Island? Some movement. Nothing major going on. Most of the activity confined to the southeastern portion of the Big Island, around the Pahala area. That has been ongoing for quite some time. Mauna Loa, not a whole lot of new uptick kicking off there currently. Things just taking a little break for now. Let's see real quick what we got for the hazard notification system there from the HVO folks before we move on to the West Coast. Activity put out this morning, at least this update was earlier this morning, about 8:20 Hawaii time. Kilauea volcano still doing its thing. Looks like most of the activity confined there to the lava lake area. Mauna Loa still sits at advisory in yellow, currently not erupting. Only about 25 small magnitude earthquakes below 3.0 in the last 24 hours. GPS systems continue to measure inflation at rates elevated since mid-September. But it looks like tilt meters at the summit are not showing significant surface deformation over the past week, so they're not. And gas concentrations and whatnot around the volcano remain stable currently at the summit in all other areas of the volcano there. All right, getting back to the latest info here across the western states here. We're going to start up here in the Pacific Northwest. A little activity outside of Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, and outside of Seattle. No new movement. In fact, this last earthquake was striking about 10 o'clock this morning, right around the Mount Rainier area. Check out a couple volcano seismograph stations here in a little bit. Over here around the Cascadia mega thrust, right? A pretty large area, and potentially dangerous there in creating a mega quake and subsequent large tsunami. 1.6 coming in, looks like 11:20 a.m. at 4.3 kilometers deep. And prior to that, we had a little bit of activity down south of Eureka, 28 kilometers deep for a 4.1. Notice they've dropped the magnitude a little bit. That originally came in a little bit larger at 4.2. And then they added this earthquake on here as well, because this wasn't even in here when I did my update earlier this morning. So they add these quakes on after the fact. But that's okay. At least they're listing them, and that's a pretty important earthquake out there along the Cascadia. Definitely be keeping an eye on that. Around the Bay Area, not a whole lot going on except for the typical Clear Lake volcanic field hydrothermal pumping, or not pumping operations, but power operations. Some movement around the Hayward or Calaveras fault zone, it looks like, here within the last hour near San Jose. Little 0.9. Still getting a little cluster of quakes here within this intersection of the Calaveras fault and the plate boundary here, the San Andreas fault. Things lighten up, though, around the Ridgecrest area. Notice about 3 earthquakes here within the last hour around the Ridgecrest area. Kind of spread out all over the place here, not on any specific faults, but roughly got a 1.9, the largest in this little cluster out here. Somewhat shallow at about 1.1 kilometers deep, and some other deeper quakes in the area. Further down south, let's see, that earthquake there north of Victorville was yesterday. Almost getting off that 24-hour threshold right there last night. A little further activity down south into the San Jacinto fault zone, but no major swarming currently over the last 24 hours there in the southern part of the state. Yellowstone National Park, nothing showing up, but I'm sure there is some activity. So let's refresh this and see what we got. Around Maple Creek area, still seeing some movement here in the spikes all over the last 24 hours here. Spread out pretty good. Not a lot. No major earthquake movement here at Yellowstone. Most of these here look like they're definitely below the 2.0 threshold. And there's a handful of them. And I'm sure tomorrow morning, the USGS, bright and bushy-tailed, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed with their coffee after their morning meetings, will report the data up here. We'll check for that tomorrow. Weekends doesn't seem important to them. Well, at least as far as reporting earthquakes go. 2.2 in Missouri. That one coming in much earlier this morning, about 3 o'clock my time there when I was sleeping. No further activity to report across the eastern portion of the states. The Canada region, let's see what we got here. See if there's any activity being reported. Looks like one from a couple days ago. That's about it. That's another agency that doesn't really report anything on the weekends. The folks up there at Earthquakes Canada. So we'll have to check back there tomorrow sometime. The Cascadia tremor tonight, looks like that is really ramping up here around the Seattle area. It's a pretty good uptick in movement. 437 epicenters of tremor confined to our Seattle area, just south of the Puget Sound, south of the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Let's see what we got here. Most of this activity kind of looks like it's within that zone, especially up here, getting some further tremor up there. Looks like this is starting to turn into one of those events there, 14-month intervals, and that's about the only area that's seen tremor, aside from one little spot there in Oregon. But there's reports here. Let's see if they've reported anything. You can follow back here earlier this year and last year how they chatted about the tremors that do occur within this area every 14 months or so. But this one right here back in October 2021 kind of took these guys to a surprise, because that 14-month interval started much earlier. It started with, looks like started, which would make it due to start sometime in December 2021. So October, November, December, probably 3 months early. And that's kind of going hand in hand with let me show you guys real quick. Let me back out of here. That kind of goes hand in hand with what I've been talking about here recently of these intervals getting much shorter and more common compared to years past, where we measured, every few months or every 14 months or so, you get this intervals of large tremor. But notice 2021, 2022, those intervals are cut in half easily. We just got through having a pretty good one in Oregon there. I think 7,000 or something epicenters of tremor over the last month or so. That has died down in that area, but now we're getting a new one starting up. So that line up here is going to be increasing again. So much, much closer together these things are happening. Let's go back down here to the tremor log real quick and see if they have anything put out for recent activity. Doesn't look like it. The last little entry here is from August 18, 2022. Here's a little wording right here. In any case, the very regular 14-month cycle between large ETS events in this region seems to have changed over the past several years. Thus, trying to anticipate when the next large event will occur is beyond me. So these guys are even puzzled up there. However, the total tremor still fills in the whole zone if averaged over several years. But I still think these intervals getting closer like that could be pointing to something, and it could be pointing to the Cascadia. Well, obviously it is, but it could be pointing towards a big quake out here. Definitely watching that pretty closely. Been monitoring tremor for quite a while, and we need to keep an eye on certain earthquakes. That's why I said that little earthquake out there into the Cascadia megathrust zone is important. We have to watch and monitor those pretty closely. Over the past, let's pull up the last 30 days, all magnitudes, and see what we got out here. And again, remember, sometimes they report these earthquakes hours later or days later sometimes, so you won't even be able to see them unless you go back on it a week or so, and sometimes a couple weeks. But we did have some very close here on the Cascadia megathrust zone, and within this section of the Cascadia as well. Not a whole lot up north. We did have some at the northern end of the Cascadia, and as I zoom in here, these are definitely subduction zone quakes with the depths here ranging from about 8 to 33 kilometers deep into the northern segment here of the Cascadia. So watch that pretty closely here, folks. Let me go back to the tremor here. I was going to check out a couple volcanic seismograph stations here. We'll start off with Mount St. Helens, where they're reporting one earthquake. It looks like today, much earlier, 0.0 already. We'll check out the seismograph station here, 3-component station. September lobe, it looks like. Dome station, I guess. Mount St. Helens, woo. So I would definitely say there's a lot more than one reported earthquake. Notice quite a bit here. Little specks. These are not big ones by any means. Very, very small microquakes. And that's over the last 3 or 4 hours. And throughout the day today and this morning, there's a little bit of a larger one there, but I still don't think that's too big. I believe all of these are under a 1.0. That might be close to 1.0. Just judging my observation here by these other signatures in the seismograph amplitude lines. But there's definitely a few earthquakes out there, I would say. At Mount St. Helens, quite a bit kicking up there. That's kind of why I like to go back to these seismograph stations and look. I mean, you can look at the USGS map all day and, assume, wow, nothing's going on because they're not reporting it. But you got to go to the raw data and double check stuff. Let's check out the Mount Rainier area. See what we got up there. Looks like one earthquake being reported from the PNSN network. Little 0.3. And there's a couple different stations here we can monitor. Let me see if this one's opening up. Camp Sherman. Yeah, it is. And those look like earthquakes. Let's check out the previous day here. See what we got. Yeah. Those are definitely, I would say those are earthquakes here, folks. There's quite a bit. It doesn't look like there's anything big or major, but man, there's a lot going on there at the Mount Rainier area. So I'm going to double check here with a different nearby seismograph station here and see if we can compare, see if this is maybe showing some stuff too. Then again, maybe not, because this is a little bit further away from the other seismograph station, and of course, previous day is not found. But looking here closely, kind of looks like we can see some of those specks, but distant away from this station here. So whatever's going on up there with the data with those little earthquakes are very close to the this area up here. Let me check one of these other ones. Let's see what we got. Camp Mount Rainier. Looks about the same there as well. See these little marks? So I'm definitely certain that those are earthquakes popping up there, because we're getting a signature of something kicking up there, some type of earthquakes, but distant from this station, because localized earthquakes are going to look like this. Very spiky, very distinct. There's one there and one here. Those are very localized, even one right here, localized to this station. When they're distant away, they're going to look something like this, a little flat-lined, or a little bit of a signature on there, but nothing like these spiky localized ones. Let me check out the previous. Oh man, won't let me check that one out either. Okay, so let's see. We'll go down here one more time and see. Mildred Point, not found. Not found. All right, so we'll definitely watch that, see what's going on, see if it's going to be reported there as far as those quakes go. It looks like there was quite a bit at Mount Rainier, so we'll watch that pretty closely. And again, only one being reported up here. 0.3, very small microquake. And it kind of looks like it's in, well, that triangle that I was showing you, the seismograph station sits kind of up here. So this earthquake kind of struck here south of the monitoring station up here. But all right, we'll double check it. We'll get back on that for sure. I'm watching the Volcano live stream currently on the other computer. Man, you can see a pretty good amount of lava there at Kilauea Volcano, by the way. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Running 24/7 on the other live stream with volcanic activity. And we'll switch those up. Not 100% certain when, if I'm going to leave these up here for a couple weeks, a couple months, a day. I'm going to go into that and then switch the volcanoes up periodically to include some other active volcanoes, or maybe some questionable volcanoes, maybe like Mount Rainier. That could be questionable with all that earthquake activity kicking up there. But go check it out, the new volcano live stream. Of course, we do have this one here, the earthquake live stream as well, and space weather, where things are starting to calm down a little bit into the green, meaning that KP indexes there are getting settled and just being a little bit calm. There is a potential up there at the higher latitudes, it looks like, around Canada, portions of Greenland and Iceland in there as well. Of course, down on the southern hemisphere too. You guys got a chance. If anybody's watching from Antarctica, I doubt it. But hey, never know. And the face on the sun is not the man on the moon. This is the man on the sun. I guess it kind of looks like, I don't know who that looks like. Little weird looking. Either way, enough of that joke, right? Okay, coronal holes are rotating into view here of the Earth pretty soon. And that will amplify some conditions here in the coming days and nights, because these two are somewhat lined up. This one here more specifically. But we did get a pretty good glancing blow from the southern one. So we'll definitely keep an eye on it, 2 eyes on it, and see how it plays out. One little sunspot, it looks like, on the Earth side, maybe a couple, but one of maybe a little bit of an interest. And then back over here on the northeastern side of the sun, things kind of cooking a little bit. Getting some nice little features there from those magnetic lines, magnetic fields there. Sunspots, we'll be watching that pretty closely. Looks like these guys have kind of picked up on it a little bit as well. They have circled that region. Going to watch that pretty closely. Right now, can't really see too much of the mixing of the magnetic fields. This one here kind of looks possibly that it could be interesting here in the coming days. Can't wait to see what this looks like. And we'll watch that, of course, throughout the days ahead and see if we can't get a couple good M flares or maybe a couple X flares from these guys. We are ramping up towards solar maximum here in a couple years. Let's see what else we got here. Current wind stream, real-time solar wind dying down in the density department. Still somewhat elevated there with the speed, but stabilization there, the BT-BZ component there should keep everything calm for now. And yeah, I think that's about it, folks. Trying to think if there's anything else we need to cover. I believe that's about it. So have a good night. Make sure you guys stay safe out there. Tomorrow is the M word, Monday. But that's okay, right? It's the start of a new work week, and things crazy in this world. But hey, it could be worse. Looks like New Zealand's got some new earthquakes there from the EMSC data been reported. A couple threes, and pretty shallow just south of the North Island region. Doesn't look like it's associated with the Hikurangi, at least in this specific area. Possibly over here on the 3.4. That one looks a little bit deeper and more raised off the globe. But that's EMSC, so that's just kind of pointing out some newer activity right now here along the Pacific Plate. Been watching for that. I mean, obviously we keep getting movement here to the west and the adjacent plates. It's only a matter of time before it catches up here. And the Fiji Islands area and the Tonga area, Kermadec Trench, all seem to play catch up pretty easily. They have no problems popping off 4s and 5s and other earthquakes. But it's this section up here, the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, Japan Trench, that has not played catch up, has not released any significant earthquake movement in quite some time. So it just, each day that goes on, it's definitely looking likely that there'll be a bigger quake within that area. And I could say the same thing for about the west coast as well with the Cascadia. But the general motion here of these plates put this zone right here at a very high accumulated slip rate, much higher than what we see along the west coast and the Cascadia. It does not take 300 and something years for enough stress to produce an 8.0 or larger in that area. So that's why I'm saying these zones right here catch up pretty quickly in the slip rate department. But so far in the release of pressure, they haven't. So we've got to watch that pretty closely. All right, guys, have a good night. The stream is back up and running, of course. I had an interesting little ordeal with the Earthquake 3D program here. Very odd. So literally, it froze up my computer and uninstalled itself from my computer. Now, you can't tell me that doesn't sound suspicious. What kind of program freezes a computer and then actually uninstalls itself from someone's hard drive? I had to re-download this thing, and I find that kind of fishy. Very fishy. So I don't know what's going on there, but I don't like it. Definitely don't like it. It's a brand new computer. Everything's all set up here. But somehow, you know, when you add a program onto your computer, you're giving that program permission to make changes to your computer. So, you know, if you were to download anything, it doesn't matter if it's this Earthquake 3D program or Word, Excel, any Microsoft program, you know, you're giving that that app specific permissions to do things to the computer that may not be of one's interest. So I'm watching this program like a hawk. If it disappears from my computer again, well, I think I'll reach out to the developer and have a little chat and see what's going on. Have a good night, folks. Stay safe out there, and go check out the Volcano live stream. And check out Kilauea Volcano right now. There's a pretty cool image from their webcam viewer of the heat, the lava. Pretty cool looking. All right, guys, have a good night. Stay safe. We will chat you guys much later. Peace out.